Good morning, everybody. Sorry, I'm looking a bit red. I've just come out the shower. But I thought I'd talk to you this morning about overwhelm because it's a really busy time of year, and a couple of people I've been speaking to this week are feeling very overwhelmed. So we can be overwhelmed by the things that are happening to us. So this time of year particularly, it's really busy, a lot going on, a lot of arrangements to make for Christmas, shopping, writing cards, all the thinking about food, who's coming, where, when. If you've got children, it's a really busy time because there's lots of stuff going on at school, and they're busy. Often our businesses, this can be a really busy time for us in our business, and if it's not, we're really trying to take stock of the year, where we've got to this year, and where we want to be next year. So the overwhelm can happen outside of you by things that are just, life that's happening around you. But a lot of it is what goes on in our head and how we can kind of overthink things, and we can flip from one thing to another. Or it was when I was working with a client last week. She was talking about getting, one of the things she wanted to do was to attend a fitness class, but what that meant was she had to go out and buy some new clothes and book up the lesson, and then before we know it, we're clearing out her wardrobe of all her old fitness stuff that doesn't fit. So then this has become a really, really big deal, and she feels overwhelmed. And then what we all do, what our body and mind does for us, it's like a trip switch that goes off inside of us, and it will say, whoa, can't cope with that. Trip switch goes off, and we kind of go into freeze mode. We become paralyzed and actually can't do anything at all. So what I would like to do is just talk through 3 ideas I have that you might be able to use to cope with that overwhelm. The first thing is that when we start to feel overwhelmed, what we generally do is get really busy, because what we start to do is to generate a lot of adrenaline. So we start to run on adrenaline and we get very speedy. In the short term, that's fine. We get a lot done, and we feel like we're achieving a lot and we feel good. But if you keep on running on adrenaline, your body, and I think this is particularly as we get older, your body will just run out of steam and get burnt out quite quickly, because when you're busy and running on adrenaline, you actually don't take care of yourself. You haven't really got time to eat properly, or even go to the loo or have a drink. You certainly can't relax. Your body doesn't relax, so often we end up not sleeping very well, and then the whole thing just goes round in a spiral. So one of the things you need to do to be able to deal with that is to just slow down. It's a very counterintuitive thing to do, but if you look at emergency workers, for example, they're dealing with, life and death crisis situation, but they do not go quickly. They stay quite slow and quite measured about what they're doing, and that's because they don't want to feed the adrenaline. They know that they have to stay calm in order to think straight and to make good decisions. And it's the same for us. If you slow down, what you're doing is signaling to your body and mind that this isn't a crisis situation, and therefore you'll be able to, you'll think more clearly, and you'll make better decisions, so you'll be able to prioritize more and that sort of thing. So slow down your speech, slow down your walking, slow down your driving, slow down everything you do. And if you wanted to build on that, obviously the next thing to do is to do mindfulness things, which is basically just do one thing at a time, which is very hard when you're feeling overwhelmed. The other thing to do is to, my second hot tip would be to make pauses in your day and stop. So as that adrenaline is rising, you take regular breaks. That could be every hour, whatever, every half an hour, break times, lunch times, whatever, where you're actually pausing your day and you stop. I see it as like putting punctuation in the day, because otherwise what happens is, if you imagine someone writing and there's no gaps between the words, there's no punctuation, it's all kind of gobbledygook. And so by making pauses in your day, what you're doing is putting in punctuation. So it's like comma, full stop, new sentence, new paragraph. And when you're pausing and you're taking these pauses, one of the really powerful things you can do is to do some breathing. So just regularly throughout the day, do some, if you know yogic breathing, if you know any breathing exercises, do them. But if not, an easy one I think is simply to make your out breath longer than your in breath. So when you're breathing in, breathe down deeply, right down into your stomach, so you can really feel your ribs flare out, because obviously your lungs fill your ribs. So if you need to fill your lungs, you need to move your ribs. So take a deep breath in and then count for whatever that is, if that's 5 or 3, it doesn't really matter, but count what it is and then make your out breath longer. So if you're breathing in for 5, make your out breath 7 or 8. And just do that a couple of times a day, and then what you're doing is signaling to your system that it's okay. My third tip is to really stop your mind from running away with things. How one thing leads to another, and then before we know it, what was just a little job has turned into this mammoth, oh my God, and I've got to clean the whole house, or, I've got to make £1,000 today, or whatever it is, that we can keep adding to things. So my suggestion is that you think small. You think in really small steps, and you start to stop your mind from racing on ahead and just keep bringing it back to, actually, now I need to do this. You can use goal setting techniques for that, and I will post my 9 tips later on today for setting goals. You can, but what you want to do is to have your main goal, milestones along the way, and then the little tiny stepping stones that you need to achieve. Write them down, and then when your mind starts to wander off, write down, oh, that was a really good idea somewhere, but bring yourself back to your focus and what you've already kind of agreed with yourself that you're going to do. So I'd love to hear your ideas for how you deal with overwhelm. These are just quickly mine, but do add yours. And as I said, I will write down my tips for you how to create your kind of to-do list that stops you from feeling overwhelmed. So have a lovely day. I'm off to my networking group this morning, which I love, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.